We sort of had a bit of a lull the second weekend, and most of that was due to underquoting. If we had have quoted the way we quote now in the beginning, it would have been perfect back then. It's all just a learning process, but at the moment, we've probably tripled what we were making the first week already.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's just some proper quoting.
Yeah, that's it. And spending the right amount of time at a job.
So we're joined today by Jack on the Gyms Mowing and Gyms Group podcast as well, and you're from up in Queensland, Jack. And we really appreciate you jumping on because you've only been a couple of months in. I think since end of March you started. So it's great to check in with you after nearly 2 months because obviously it's been a whirlwind, I presume, for you, and you'd be quite busy at the moment. So how's everything been, first of all?
Big learning process, that's for sure. Starting out, a lot of the jobs were bigger jobs that we probably underquoted.
Yeah.
It was good for us to learn because then we're like, try not to make that mistake again.
Quoting, that seems to be a big problem sometimes for a lot of new starters. So underquoting is just because you don't know how long it's going to take you to do it, or you don't feel comfortable charging the amount you should, or what was it about it?
Yeah, so mostly it was about time. So we would look at a sort of a bigger garden cleanup with hedging, sort of people that wanted everything. And we would try to estimate 5 hours, let's say, but then it ends up taking us twice as long. What we did in that case is we just started charging more to cover us in case it did take longer. And we've also just been improving in terms of getting the jobs done faster anyways, just with our skills.
And what were you doing prior to gyms, Jack?
Just warehouse work.
Okay. And what prompted the change for you, and how did you stumble across gyms?
So it was about probably a year ago. I was driving because I'm with a business partner. So we were driving to work together. We were talking about making more money. And then I was like, a franchise is probably a good idea. And then just started researching, and then just working in warehousing. There's not much progression there.
Yeah.
That was a big thing as well.
And then how did you stumble on Gyms Mowing? Like, you would have looked at a few things. Like, what else did you look at, or why was it Gyms Mowing for you?
It was just gyms. Gyms was the first thing that popped into our heads. And then we started running numbers on being independent.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, yeah, we could be independent. And then the more research we did into gyms was like, it was a no-brainer. Just the leads and the national brand was just a big selling point for sure.
What sort of numbers were you running as an independent? Because there's a lot of independent podcasts and stuff, and they talk about, lead gen numbers and stuff like that. So what sort of numbers were you coming up with as to do the independent, if you went that route?
It was an ideal world where if we could generate the amount of work, but in theory, it would take infinitely longer to generate the amount of, especially compared to the work we've been getting these past couple of weeks. And then the lead quality is amazing. Like yesterday, we had a lead come through, which was Department of Main Roads one, and they're doing a highway upgrade, and they want 7 lots mowed.
I think people underestimate that, Jack, because a lot of the independents we see all the time, don't pay gyms, start it yourself and away you go. But then you've got to advertise Bill's Mowing or whatever it's called, and no one knows who the heck you are. You got no reviews. Whereas if you had the gym's name, as you said, you got the government organisations, an example, just calling up wanting gyms mowing. So it's great to hear about the lead quality and that you're happy with that.
For sure. Yeah, we've had a few customers we've given quotes to, and they said, they've had an independent guy and then they want gyms. And that's what they've been honest, and they've said that. I'm like, no worries.
I'm glad you heard that, because we're going to clip that up and post it online and stir up a few of the independents, because obviously we've on the socials, we always see that comment from independents, I've got so many clients from gyms mowing, blah, 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 blah. And I find it hard to believe, because what you just said, there's probably the typical thing that we generally hear from people about it. And why is that? Is it just they have a bad experience, or the person stops rocking up, or they're just...
Yeah, most of the time we hear, they're a bit flaky, and they'll just push you out, and they'll be like, oh, we can't come this week. And then, but gyms, a lot of people know that gyms are reliable. Yeah.
And is that for you the main thing about the brand, is just the reliability, or what else is it they like, people like using Gyms Mowing?
Yeah, and it's a quality thing too, because we tell them that we're police checked and everything, and then there's just more comfort in the customer going through Gyms Mowing.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you find the transition from the warehouse work to what you're doing now? It can be quite a shock to the body.
Yeah. Our first week was a bit of a struggle. I think our second lead was like a giant pile of mulch. And then in hindsight, we should have turned the job down and not done it, because it was about 3 ton of mulch that we shoveled by hand. Underquoted it for sure.
Yeah.
And we'll saw the rest of the week.
So how's the body now holding up?
Yeah, every now and then, if we're in a garden bed pulling out plants or something, we'll get sore. But other than that, body's adjusted well.
And do you enjoy the work?
100%. Like the satisfaction in just completely changing someone's property is amazing.
I love hearing that. Yeah. Is that the best thing for you, is being able to just within a day, you can literally get that multiple times, that same feeling, I guess, doing the transformations you guys do?
Yeah, yeah, it's perfect. Like especially taking those before and after pictures, and like it gives you that self gratification, you know.
I love hearing that. And so you decided to start with a business partner. So how helpful is that? How helpful has that been for you?
We were talking about it all of yesterday, and in terms of efficiencies, it's insane because we can just get so much more done. And then, you know, if we're out on the road, he can be driving and I can be sending the invoices straight away and calling the customers. It's definitely a big benefit, I think.
A lot of people sometimes think about doing the partnership. So you've gone a partnership model. Is it a 50-50 type arrangement? Is that how you're doing it, or?
Yeah, yeah, it's all
Yeah.
50/50, yeah.
Great. With your training of it as well, how did you find the training when you come down to Melbourne?
The training was great. Eye-opening, I would say. Especially a lot of the general training. Those first 3 days were great.
Was there anything that you took away back into your business when you went up, or what was the things that sort of hit home for you?
The big things that hit home were all the accounting sort of
Passes everyone out, yeah.
yeah, it was a big eye opener. I was like, okay, we got to do this that way, and then just seeing the system and how to use the system, that was great.
Awesome. Equipment, what equipment setup did you go with, and why did you choose to use the equipment you're using?
So we're all electric, all Ego brand.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you go up there with it? Because obviously there's a lot of growing season be crazy up there and can be a lot of thick grass and stuff like that. So how are you going with the electric in that?
Yeah, we have to have a few batteries, but in terms of the maintenance, it's just a million times easier to manage batteries than it is to manage the petrol stuff, in our opinion.
And how's been okay?
Yeah, the Ego mower we have, it handles everything.
What type is it? Is it, Jack? Is it the big? There's like a 60 kilo one they have. I know. Or is it another one?
Yeah,
Which one are you using?
It's the big commercial
Oh,
alloy.
I've seen that one. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah. And how many batteries you got?
So we have 4 12 amp hour ones, and they're just for the mower. We have 3 7.5 amp hour ones, and
Yep.
then one smaller 2.5 one. That'll get us through the whole day easily, and then some.
Awesome. And you're lasting the whole day. If you got one, you obviously charge every night when you go back, I presume, and that lasts you the whole day. Yeah.
They also have a backpack that we use, which is I think like 28 amp hours, and we just use that for all the whipper snipping, pole sleds, things like.
So you got the back. So you got the back. You got the attachments, and you're doing that setup with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, great. And what do customers think of it? Because I know there's some customers a bit more conscious about it. I know in the States and America and California, they're banning all petrol mowers and stuff, and I'm presuming that's going to come here eventually. But what do your customers think about all the electric setup?
They love it, yeah. And then sometimes we'll be mowing a lawn, and then we can hear the petrol gear down the street. It's so loud, and yeah, for us, yeah, it's definitely the way to go.
I'm glad to hear that's got enough power for you as well, and it's doing well. I have seen the 60 kilo or the big commercial one in person. It's a tank of a thing, and it's got a bit of bite to it. I was going to say as well, what's been the best thing for you to running your business so far?
The freedom has been great in terms of choosing what jobs we want to do, how much we want to charge for those jobs. It's so justifying because if we think a job is worth X amount of money, we can do it for that. And then if we don't have to do it if the customer disagrees with the price, especially if it's a big job that will, take us a long time to do.
And how have you been going with the leads and all that sort of stuff going through? Is it just something where it's just been a matter of practicing to get the customer service to where you want it and the quoting and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so a big thing has been customer expectations and managing what they think we can, especially if it's an overgrown property and, if they think it's going to look brand spanking new after one visit. The quoting, in terms of underquoting, we've sort of just, because we've seen a lot of online of Jim himself saying, if you're getting every lead, you're not charging enough. Yeah. And essentially we were getting every lead for the first few weeks.
Which means you're too cheap, yeah. I can see now you got a price rating. We have a price rating internally. I can see we have 3 ratings, low, medium, and high. You're at high, which is a good thing because it means you're making a pretty good, you're profitable business and getting what you're worth. I was going to say as well, you mentioned then about customer expectations. So how then do you deal with that? So when you said, do you educate them from the start, look, this is going to take multiple visits, or how do you sort of manage that?
It is all about communication with the customer, and having the customer there while you're walking around with them is huge. Sometimes we've quoted people when they haven't been there, and we've had to go back and revisit just to fix things that they could have pointed out to us when we were there.
Okay, so that in-person and walking around, just explain the reasoning why it might take a couple of visits, and the first time might look like this, and the second time it'll get to more where they think.
Yeah.
Cool. And what else about, let's say, if the business, what's been the challenges then, like doing your own business?
Probably just staying on top of the scheduling, I would say.
Okay. What are you using for that?
We just use Jim's, the Jim's job scheduling and put them all through there. But then in terms of this week, it's been quite rainy. So just scheduling all the customers and moving certain jobs to different days, it's been a big learning curve for us.
You've got a perfect 5-star rating on the system here, which I'm looking at. So what to you is good customer service? How do you treat customer service in your business?
Communication is huge. I know a lot of our customers' feedback has been the communication aspect of it. They're not going to get annoyed if you're messaging them, keeping them updated on stuff. They actually prefer that.
So what type of updates is just like, we're going to be this time, or halfway through a job, you might say we need to do this, or what sort of updates are you sending them?
Yeah, both of those things. So what time we're coming out and being on time, that's a big thing. So usually we'll give them an hour window and we'll arrive as sooner rather than later in that hour. Giving them updates on the job, if we have to leave, if it starts raining, and then when we'll come back, and then just keeping them in the loop.
Got a perfect 5-star rating. It sounds simple, but not a lot of people would do that, Jack, even though it sounds like it's basic common sense. But I think, as I know as a customer myself, people, you take off time from work, or you they say they're going to be here and they rock up an hour or two later, just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. So I think that's the stuff that people expect now. And how's the support been as well from the other gyms and your franchisor?
It's been excellent. I know there's a sort of area manager under Damien where we're at.
Who's that?
Walter.
Bolter, cool.
And he's been a goldmine for us. He's helped us through many big jobs, and then he sort of was the eye-opener for us in terms of when we're sending quotes, to send them as accurately as possible to avoid miscommunication in terms of what we're going to complete for that customer.
So that's a good point, because I think people underestimate taking the time to get every line item right, because as you know, if something goes wrong with the customer, it can get a complaint and it can be a whole bunch of issues. So is that just a matter of, when he says taking the time to get it right, does it mean making sure everything you're going to do is literally as a line item, or what does that mean?
Yeah, so whatever you're physically going to carry out, put in there.
Yeah.
And then if you know that there's something that you can't handle, you might as well put that in the notes of the quote as well. Just as much communication as possible.
Absolutely. Now, is there anything else, Jack, I should answer that I haven't asked you, that you think people might find interesting? You've listened to a few podcasts, which is great. Is there anything that was missing from those interviews before that maybe you can fill in? Like, do you have a family or something? Or what about personally, what do you get up to in your free time?
Personally, no family for me. I just love getting out, going on trips up to the Sunshine Coast, stuff like that.
Where's that spot up there?
Mooloolaba. There's a nice spot.
And so I should probably ask you then, income-wise, you happy with what you're doing money-wise as well in your business?
Yeah, especially just starting out, we started out with no clients at all. And then so our first week we did well, and then we sort of had a bit of a lull the second week in, and then so far it's just been, and most of that was due to underquoting.
Right.
If we had have quoted the way we quote now in the beginning, it would have been perfect back then. But it's all just a learning process. But at the moment, we've probably tripled what we were making the first week already.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's just some proper quoting.
Yeah, that's it. And spending the right amount of time at a job, because a lot of jobs we refer to as onions.
Right, okay.
You can constantly peel back layers of the yard and be there for 12 hours. But if it's not in the quote, just communicate to the customer that it wasn't in the quote, and then just do what you're there to do.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And what about the fees then? Obviously, there's a lot of misconception with the fees online and stuff. So how do you think the fees compare to the value that you're getting?
The fees are almost irrelevant to how much we're making. It's
good.
And then our expenses, we barely have any expenses. It's just tip fees, petrol. Yeah. The franchise fees and especially as we're going along, our lead fees are just going down and down.
So you're building a regular customer base, yeah.
Yeah.
How many regs do you have at the moment? Should have asked you that.
I think we've got around 10. So I think they were saying try to get 1 to 3 a week. So that's sort of been our goal. And then by the end of the year, we should have a pretty solid base.
What are you hoping to do with your business as a team? Are you wanting to put on more people, or you want to build to like 100 red business, or what are you trying to do?
Yeah, for sure, definitely grow the business. And
Yep.
we want to try to we find having two people out on the road together is perfect.
Yes.
What we probably want to do is split. One of us goes with a new staff member and one of us goes with another. So we'd hire probably two more people.
Which is a great sized business. Did you think, has it married up to the expectations? Because you would have listened to a lot of things before and heard what other franchisees say. Has it married up to the expectations? Well, you sure right. Oh, good.
Yeah. And it's probably exceeded expectations.
How's it exceeded it? Is it just in terms of the money, or you like doing the work, or just being the feeling of your own boss, or how's it exceeded it?
I would say the satisfaction of the work has been a big thing. I didn't think it would feel this good, but it does.
Yeah.
And then the freedom of, if we want to have a sleep in, we can have a sleep in and then still get all the jobs done for the day.
And I was going to say, as well, I should ask you at the start, did you, with the technical skills, a lot of people worry about the technical skills when they come into Jim's Mowing. They think, I've never done this, or I don't know how to do this. How have you gone with the skill side of it? Like, is it just something where you just got to do it and you'll improve, or how have you gone with that?
It's not that complex. I think probably some people overcomplicate it in their mind, and it's more just, if you spend a couple of weeks doing it, you will improve. It's not a rocket science,
Mm. And when you get stuck with the problem, is it just a matter of calling Walter, or how do you get support on that, or how do you figure it out?
Yeah, if we're ever stuck, Walter is our go-to guy for sure.
Yeah.
He's a wealth of knowledge.
And what jobs, maybe for an example, that you've been stuck on, maybe, and how you solved it? What's an example?
So we had a hedging job, and just us being new, not knowing the process, we wanted Walter's input on how much to quote for it. And we called him up, and he just looked at pictures of the hedges, and he was like, oh, probably this much for that hedge, this much. And then he was spot on with the quote. It took us the right amount of time for the right amount that he quoted.
That's great to hear. I was going to say then, Jack, is there any advice maybe for other people who might be listening in your positioning? Because obviously a lot of people do a lot of research and it can be quite scary and stuff like that. What would you sort of maybe advise them if they're listening to your interview?
I think have a plan going in.
Okay.
What you want to get out of it. And then once you have a plan, just go for it, shoot for it. I've had no regrets, definitely.
Great to hear, Jack. Well, thank you for jumping on. We appreciate your time, and we'll let you get back to it because you're obviously going to be busy this week and today. So yeah, we're really glad to hear you're doing well. So much, 2 months in business already, and you're enjoying it. It's not a common experience for people outside of gyms, really. It's a tough slog as an independent. So really love hearing that. So appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you for listening to the episode of the More Than Just Mowing podcast by Jim's Mowing. If you do need help with your local gardening expert, please give us a call at 131 546 for Australia, 0800 454 654 for New Zealand, or head to jimsmowing.com.au or jimsmowing.co.nz. If you liked what you heard, please make sure you leave us a review as well, wherever you consume your podcast. We appreciate your support. And until next episode, we hope you have a great week.